All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And this time, we're talking King Solomon.
Oh, yeah, one of the greats.
This guy inherited a kingdom from his father, the legendary King David, and then somehow managed to become even more legendary. How do you do it? That's what we're going to find out. So,
Well, we got to start with the sources, right?
of course, we're going straight to the Bible for this one, specifically 1 and 2 Chronicles, chapters 1 through 3.
These books give us the inside scoop on Solomon's early reign, from the moment he takes the throne to the early years of his rule.
And they don't disappoint. We're talking epic stories of power, wisdom, and construction projects so massive, they'd make a modern-day engineer blush.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's set the stage. Solomon inherits a kingdom that his father David spent a lifetime building. We're not just talking about a few cities and a couple of camel herds. This was a full-blown empire.
It really was. David had united the 12 tribes of Israel, conquered Jerusalem, and established a dynasty. So yeah, no pressure on Solomon, right?
Right. Talk about big shoes to fill. Exactly. And that's what makes this story so compelling. We get to see how Solomon navigates these challenges, how he steps out of his father's shadow and makes his own mark on history.
And it all starts with a journey and 1,000 burnt offerings.
Now you're speaking my language. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so according to the texts, Solomon travels to Gibeon, the location of the tabernacle.
Which, for those who don't know, was the portable dwelling place of God. Imagine that, carrying around a sacred tent.
And while he's there, he offers up 1,000 burnt offerings. 1,000.
Not exactly a subtle move, right?
Not at all. It's like he's sending a message. Hey, God, it's me, Solomon. I'm here and I mean business.
It's a power move for sure. And you know what they say? 1,000 burnt offerings get you a one-on-one with the Almighty.
Because that night, God appears to Solomon in a dream.
Cue the dream sequence music.
And God says those famous words, ask what I shall give you.
Hmm.
Can you imagine? You've got one wish. What would you ask for?
Right. Riches, power, maybe a lifetime supply of those fancy dates everyone was always talking about.
Right. So what does Solomon choose? What does this young king, who's suddenly in charge of a vast and powerful kingdom, ask for?
Wisdom.
He asks for wisdom and knowledge to govern his people justly and wisely. Can you believe it?
He could have had anything, but he chose wisdom. It's such a powerful statement. He's recognizing that ruling a kingdom like Israel isn't about brute force or mountains of gold. It's about understanding discernment, making the right decisions, decisions that benefit everyone.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the weight of leadership and approaching it with humility, which is exactly what God wanted to hear.
Because not only does God grant Solomon incredible wisdom, but he also throws in those riches and honor Solomon could have asked for. It's like God saying, you made the right call, kid. Now go build something amazing. And boy, does he ever.
That's where we're headed next. But first, let's take a quick break. So we've got Solomon, this young king with wisdom pouring out of his ears. And of course, he's got the riches too. You'd think he'd maybe build himself a palace or two, kick back, relax, enjoy the good life.
You know Solomon, if that's all he did, he'd still be remembered as a wise and wealthy king. But his ambitions went far beyond personal luxury. He had a vision, a project so grand, so awe-inspiring, that it would solidify his place in history.
He decided to build a temple for the Lord. And not just any temple. This was going to be a masterpiece, a building that would surpass anything the world had ever seen.
Now, when we say surpass, we're not exaggerating. The books of Chronicles lay out the sheer scale of this project. And it's mind-boggling. Get this. Solomon employed 70,000 laborers just to carry loads. 80,000 stone cutters were hard at work in the mountains. And to keep everything running smoothly, he had 3,600 supervisors overseeing the whole operation.
Whoa. Hold on a second. 70,000 laborers. That's like the entire population of a small city, just hauling stuff around.
It gives you a sense of the scope, doesn't it? This wasn't just a construction project. It was a massive undertaking, a testament to Solomon's ambition and his organizational genius.
It's like building the pyramids. But even more impressive.
And speaking of impressive, let's not forget about the materials. Solomon didn't skimp. He wanted the best of the best for the Lord's temple. So he reached out to his ally, King Hiram of Tyre.
Ah, yes. King Hiram, the cedarwood king.
Precisely. Tyre was renowned for its skilled craftsmen and its access to vast forests of cedar. The perfect combination for a project like this.
And Solomon was like, hey, Hiram, remember all that cedar you got? I'm going to eat a lot of it.
Pretty much. The texts say Solomon requested cedar, juniper, and algum timber, shipped straight from the forests of Lebanon to the port of Joppa. and then transported overland to Jerusalem. Can you imagine the logistics involved?
It's giving me a headache just thinking about it. But hey,
Yeah.
that's why you were the king.
Solomon knew what he was doing. He had a vision, and he was determined to see it through. And it's even more remarkable.
What's that?
Before he even started building the temple, he conducted a census.
A census. Why a census?
To get a handle on his workforce, he needed to know how many people he had at his disposal, specifically the foreigners living within Israel's borders. And get this, the census counted 153,600 foreigners.
153,600. That's incredible. It's like he was taking inventory, making sure he had all the right pieces in place.
Exactly. Solomon was a planner, and he knew that a project of this magnitude required meticulous organization, from the manpower to the materials to the location.
Speaking of location, where did they decide to build this magnificent temple?
On Mount Moriah in Jerusalem, the very same place where God appeared to his father David.
Wow. Talk about a power move. Building your legacy quite literally on the foundation laid by your father.
Exactly. It's a deliberate choice, a way for Solomon to connect his reign with the legacy of David. And it adds another layer of significance to the temple itself. This wasn't just a building, it was a symbol, a statement, a testament to the enduring covenant between God and the people of Israel.
And we haven't even gotten to the architecture yet. That's a whole other level of wow. But we're going to have to save that for next time because we're out of time for today.
Stay tuned, folks. Things are about to get really interesting.
Okay, last time we left off, we were about to step inside Solomon's temple, this architectural marvel that took years of planning and a workforce larger than some modern cities.
Yeah, we're talking next level construction here.
So no more teasing. Let's get those doors open and whoa.
That's usually the reaction people have when they first learn about Solomon's temple. They're blown away by the scale, the opulence, the sheer audacity of it all.
Audacious is a good word for it. I mean, imagine walking into this massive structure, everything gleaming with gold.
Oh, yeah. The texts say they used cedar wood for the interior walls, but then they covered it in gold. Like, completely covered it. You wouldn't even know there was wood underneath.
Talk about extra.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're the king, you got mountains of gold. Why not go all out?
Right. And it wasn't just about the gold itself. It was about what it represented. The divine, the majestic. Gold was a powerful symbol.
It's like they were trying to create a glimpse of heaven right here on earth.
Exactly. And then there were the precious stones. They were everywhere, embedded in the walls used for decoration, each one carefully chosen for its beauty and symbolism.
Like what kind of stones are we talking about?
Well, for example, they used lapis lazuli. That's a deep blue stone that was incredibly valuable in the ancient world, often associated with royalty and the heavens.
So again, it's all about emphasizing the power and majesty of God.
Precisely. Every detail, every material was chosen to inspire awe and reverence, to create an experience that would transport you to another realm.
Okay, I'm getting lost in the glitz and glam here. But we can't forget about the heart of the temple, the Holy of Holies.
Right, this was the inner sanctum, the most sacred space in the entire temple, accessible only to the high priest. And it housed the Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant. Okay, now we're talking serious religious artifacts. For those who don't know, what was the Ark of the Covenant?
Well, it was essentially a chest made of acacia wood and covered in gold. And inside, tradition holds that it contained the stone tablets inscribed with the Ten Commandments.
No way. So this was like the ultimate symbol of God's covenant with his people. And it was just chilling in the Holy of Holies.
It was more than just chilling. It was the focal point of the entire temple. The reason the temple existed in the first place.
Can you imagine being the high priest? The only person allowed to enter that sacred space?
It must have been an overwhelming experience to stand in the presence of such holiness, surrounded by so much gold and precious stones. It was like stepping into another dimension.
And speaking of dimensions, how big was this Holy of Holies?
The text says it was a perfect cube, 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high.
So about 30 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet. That's a pretty good sized room. But hold on, you said everything else was covered in gold. What about the Holy of Holies?
Oh, they didn't skimp on the gold in there. It was entirely overlaid with fine gold. 600 talents worth, to be exact.
600 talents. That's insane.
It's an almost unimaginable amount of wealth. To give you some context, 1 talent of gold is roughly 75 pounds. So we're talking about 45,000 pounds of gold.
Yeah.
Just in that one room.
My mind is officially blown. They even use gold nails.
According to the texts, yes, even the nails and the Holy of Holies were made of gold.
I'm starting to think they had a bit of a gold obsession.
Well, it wasn't just about the material itself. It was about what it symbolized, the purity, the divinity. It was a way to honor God. to create a space worthy of his presence.
Okay, I get it. Gold equals holiness. But I gotta ask, what about that veil I always hear about? The one separating the holy place from the holy of holies?
Oh, yeah, the veil.
Yeah.
It was more than just a curtain. It was a masterpiece in its own right. Woven from the finest linen, in rich shades of violet, purple, and crimson. Imagine the most luxurious tapestry you've ever seen, and then multiply that by 1,000.
Okay, I'm picturing it. But wasn't there something about cherubim on it, too?
You're right. They embroidered the veil with images of cherubim, those winged celestial beings we talked about earlier, guarding the entrance to the Holy of Holies.
It's like every detail, every element was designed to create this sense of awe, this feeling that you were entering a space unlike any other.
Absolutely. Solomon understood the power of symbolism, and he used it masterfully to create an experience that would leave a lasting impression on anyone fortunate enough to step inside the temple.
Speaking of lasting impressions, there's one more thing we need to talk about. Those two massive pillars standing guard at the entrance to the temple, Jachin and Boaz.
Yes. The pillars. They were more than just structural supports. They were works of art in their own right, towering over the temple at 35 cubits high, each topped with a capital that was an additional 5 cubits tall.
So each pillar was over 60 feet high. Were those made of gold too?
Well, they were probably bronze, but they were far from ordinary. They were covered in intricate designs, chains, pomegranates, all sorts of symbolic ornamentation.
Pomegranates. What was the significance of that?
Well, pomegranates were often associated with fertility and abundance. So their presence on the pillars might represent the temple as a place of blessing, where God's presence would bring forth spiritual nourishment.
Oh, I see. And the names Jachin and Boaz, did those have any special meaning?
Absolutely. They weren't just random names. They were chosen for their symbolic significance. Jachin, which means he establishes, stood on the right, while Boaz, meaning in him is strength, stood on the left. Together, they underscored the temple's purpose as a place where God's presence and power were manifest, his authority established, his strength evident.
It's like they were making a statement right from the very entrance. This is a place of power, a place of holiness, a place where you better check your sandals at the door.
Exactly. Solomon's temple was a masterpiece of architecture, but it was also a masterpiece of symbolism. Every detail, every element carefully chosen to convey a message, to create an experience that was both awe-inspiring and deeply meaningful.
You know, it's amazing to think. We've been talking for a while now, and we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore. The rituals, the festivals, the daily life of the temple. It was a living, breathing organism, and it played a central role in the religious and social fabric of ancient Israel.
It's a testament to the power of faith and the enduring legacy of one king's vision.
A king who dared to dream big and build something truly extraordinary. So next time you're feeling uninspired, remember King Solomon. Remember his temple. And remember that even the most ambitious dreams can become a reality. With a little bit of wisdom, a lot of hard work, and maybe a few tons of gold.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of King Solomon. We hope you enjoyed this journey through ancient texts and monumental architecture. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out those nuggets of wisdom in the most unexpected of places.
See you next time.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.